Station, hosted and funded by the McShin Foundation. I'm John Shenholzer,
Mm.
one of the co-founders of Care Talks, and I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance abuse. For me, that means I've been clean and sober almost 39 years, and I love doing these Care Talks. We got a great show tonight. We're celebrating Black History Month, and we got some of the best recovering Black people in America coming on tonight. And I've grown to love Black History Month because I tell you, raised in the South, subject to all that propaganda they fed me as a kid, and then as I get older and I dive into Black History Month and I find out the truth, I've been hoodwinked, So each Black History Month, man, I love Black History Month. So, but honestly, our other co-host, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Honesty Liller, co-founder of Care Talks and a woman in long-term recovery since May 27, 2007. I'm so excited for this panel tonight and this event. You guys, I know most everyone, but I follow some on social media, and we definitely have a dynamic, very, very, very impactful 8 amazing speakers. Some are super, 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 super special to me, like Walton Moe. But we just sit back, relax, listen, learn. I hope you get educated way more than just on addiction and recovery education as well. So thank you to all the speakers, and happy Black History Month. We're so excited.
Very good. We're going to jump right into our first speaker. Our first speaker tonight is Morris Baton. And Morris, let me tell you about Mo. We call him Mo for short, man. He got one of the hardest jobs in the recovery community space. His job is to deal with typically 90 guys in recovery that probably don't like what he's telling him. So Mo has become quite the expert at, having delicate conversations with new people in recovery. And I'm always amazed by the way he handles the situation. But without further ado, I want to introduce my friend Mo. Mo, you're up.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Morris Baton. I am a person in sustained recovery. What that means to me is that I have not found the need to use any mind-altering or mood-altering substances in 2 years and 9 months. First, I want to say thanks for letting me get the privilege and the honor to speak here tonight. Basically, I've been asked to kind of talk about the role I play along with same-day services. And same-day services is really a huge part of my recovery, because what same-day service really, really means to me is that when you have a person that is in the midst of their addiction, you have moments of clarity. You have moments where you just, for something within you tells you that I need to stop doing what I'm doing. I need to change my life. And unfortunately, the disease of addiction is a very strong beast. And what will happen is, you have that moment. And what we do at McShin, and we pride ourselves on, is when somebody calls, you have that small window. And when I say that, a person makes a choice that they want to stop and want to change their life. The longer you leave them hanging out in the wind and not having any options, the wider that thing gets. You have to kind of immediately nip it in the bud as quickly as possible, to provide these services so we can get the road started. For me, my story is not one of being homeless. It's not one of being unemployed, but my life was extremely unmanageable. And I used to like to call out, say I was partying, and for me, it just, it would come a moment when I, just was up a couple days or going to a bar and spending a bunch of money and all of this type of stuff. And I would have a moment where I was like, man, I really wish I could do something different. And for me, that was valuable, because once I found out what the resources were and what was available to me, I made some calls, and it's like a quick decision. I want to do this. And so what happened for me is that I made some calls and got into an organization. And the financial part, I worked. It was kind of difficult, but a lot of times, you can come in I came in with very little money. I wrecked all of my money off with a weekend, and I decided I wanted to go. He's like, look, you come and we'll make arrangements and we'll work with you. And that's an important thing. You have to kind of start and meet people where they're at. Meeting people where they're at, that means that sometimes, they're, after living basically like a savage for years, some people 5, 10, 20 years, they've been living a life of using and getting drugs. And when a person's ready, they have to go. My role at the McShin Foundation, I'm the director of the men's program. And like John said, that's basically pretty much, I'd say anywhere 80 to 90 some guys, basically coming in from runs of using, and the fentanyl is killing people, and people are coming in and they're seeing that they're losing friends and they want to change their life. And my job, basically, I always tell the guys, the only real job that I have is to try to guide you through the early stages of recovery and provide a safe environment for you to learn about recovery and to thrive in recovery. One thing for me, working at the McShin Foundation, I love the fact that we are an authentic peer-to-peer recovery organization. And everyone that I work with, we're all in recovery. We all work programs of recovery with a couple of different pathways included. And for us, it's just a pleasure to be able to do that. I've only been working there just about 2 years now. For 27 years of my life, I worked in the food service, hospitality industry. And I thought that was like the ultimate team experience. For me, working at McShin, everyone in that organization, from John Shinholzer to Honesty, and all the way to the rest of the employees, we all take pride in what we do. We all love what we do, and we get the job done. We have to wear many hats in there. John was talking about handling these difficult situations, and it's a learning experience. It comes from, my particular pathway is I choose 12-step. I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous, and I'm open about that. Because, I want to let people know that the one key phrase that Mr. Shinholzer uses all the time is, hope dealers. And that's what we do, to let people know that recovery is possible and you can live a great life. Just last year, I just turned 53 years old. I didn't even think I had an issue until I was about 48. And these past 2 years and 9 months have probably been the greatest times of my life. I've gained a lot, from switching professions. There was a little fear in there because it's something I've never done before. I felt like it was going to be a lot of responsibility as far as trying to help people, but it's actually, it's coming along fairly well. You deal with a lot of things in this space. The community of people that we deal with, as human beings, we constantly changing. And only thing I can do is try to help people along so they won't find a need to use. I always tell them, just because you get clean doesn't mean life is going to stop. Life is life. You're going to have some great times, and it's going to be some bad things to happen. But long as you do not use, you give yourself an opportunity to continue with your life, and things will, they'll work out. I truly believe in that. The spiritual aspect of my program has given me a great benefit. It's always, they talk about a spiritual void, and I never really understand that until, I start working on myself. And, part of working on myself is learning to balance out my life. And I will say that, working at McShin, the people that I work with, it's a great organization. And I feel like we do valuable work in the community. We outreach to the community. We're involved in many aspects of it. And I feel like the McShin Foundation, just a couple of days ago, I went to get my second COVID shot, and the place where I went, I had my work, one of my work shirts on, and people were approaching me and saying, "We love the work that you do. You know, McShin is here, and recovery is a possibility. You know, people have to always know this whole opioid epidemic. You know, it's been pretty rough in the past year, 2020, as we all know, it's been a doozy. You know, between COVID and people dying regularly from fentanyl and just drug use in general, it's been rough. But you know, I just want everybody to know that recovery is a possibility. You know, life will get better. I see we're starting to slowly come back into normalcy as much as possible. And, you know, we have to have that hope. You know, that's what being a hope deal is all about. For me, you know, knowing that as rough and difficult as times have been, that we have a chance to make things a little better, and everything will be, you know, it's going to be what it's going to be. But if we work together, we can make this happen. I don't have a lot more, but I will say, like my girlfriend always says, love more and judge less. And thank you for letting me share this time.
Thank you. I love it. Love more and judge less, man. That's what we do. You know, our next speaker, I don't know a lot about her, but I got her bio and I read it a couple times, make sure I can read it right. And I got excited when I read it because I love somebody to deal with that reentry population. And it sounds like families, women, and children. God bless you. You know, I know that's God's work right there. But our next speaker is Carly Summers, who is the founder and executive director of a faith-based nonprofit organization, Rainbow of Love Recovery Foundation. The organization provides transitional living and treatment services for women recovering from substance use disorders and allows them to do so with their children. Executive director of Nathan's Bridge Incorporated, which provides reentry services for men and women coming from incarceration. Maryland State lead for Recovery Advocacy Project, which is the Maryland RAP organization. 10 years in the clinical addiction field as a peer and eventually an addiction counselor prior to founding her nonprofit, A Person in Long-Term Recovery. You know, Carly, I'll tell you what, man, I know what you go through, except I'm on the men's side of things. But I know it's more difficult for women the way I see it. I'm glad I'm a man dealing with who I deal with. But anyways, without taking up any more of your time, a warm welcome for Carly Summers.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure. Thank you, John and Honesty, for the invite, and Todd as well. It is absolutely a pleasure to sit amongst all these great people. I'm so grateful. So thank you. Like John said, I'm the executive director and founder of Rainbow Love Recovery Foundation. I founded the organization in 2019 after working in the field for a little bit. I really wanted to find a way to help mothers in sobriety. I am a mother myself in long-term sobriety, and it has been quite a journey for me. I remember when I got sober, it was very difficult finding childcare. It was very difficult knowing how to parent, period. I could barely take care of myself, let alone know what it took to be a mother. And so I remember that struggle, trying to, you know, find the childcare, trying to get to work, trying to go to IOP and trying to make sure I attended my 12-step meetings and met with my sponsor and doing all these things. And, you know, I always say, you know, it's different for single individuals, and regardless, sobriety is a lot of work. Recovery is a lot of work. But there's nothing like a mother in recovery for me. I've always had a soft spot for it. And so having to not only worry about yourself, but to take care of a little one or little ones in sobriety is one of the bravest things that these women do every day. And I'm so blessed to be able to be a part of their journey and to help them get to where they need to go. I designed this program fully encompass, mixing a little bit of my clinical experience with just the transitional living experience. And so when they come to my program, it's not just about being in a recovery house and, staying clean. It's about changing, it's about growing. And so, you guys have the saying hope dealers, we have the saying game changers. And so every morning I wake up asking myself, how can I change the game for these mothers? And so we have by all means done just that. We've made a way to change the game. And we started this program just not knowing where we were going to go with it. But I am so proud to say that we're here in Frederick, Maryland, and we are now in Carroll County as well. And we have been able to add mental health groups, trauma therapy, parenting, meditation and mindfulness. We've been able to add nutrition classes, case management. It is a fully encompassed program, all while doing so in transitional living. So I am truly blessed. My favorite component of my programs is the spirituality piece. I not only recover out loud, but I loudly scream from the rooftops that without God being in my life and playing the part that he has, I would never, ever be where I am today. By the grace of God, I'll celebrate 15 years of recovery in March. And every step of this has been the grace and the mercy that's been afforded to me to be able to do so. And I always promised myself that if I was able to stay sober, I would definitely pay this back and pay it forward. And I've done just that. And so I am truly, truly blessed to do what I do every day and work with these mothers, also work with these children who have been in all types of environments, crazy environments. Just bounced around in foster care. We work with CPS and we work with drug court and probation and parole. And it's pretty devastating sometimes to see what these little persons have been through. So every time I have kids in the program and hear them say, this feels like home, the tears just flow and I can't really stop them. And I never get tired of hearing that because that's why I do what I do every day. Yes, it's for the mothers. It's absolutely for the mothers, but it's also for those kids, the stability that they lack, the structure that they lack, and making sure that we are game changers for the future generation, not just this generation. If we can help their mothers and their families get back on track, then we're going to give their children a fighting chance to not go down this road as well. So it is so vital what we do. And we're blessed. We're the only transitional living house in Frederick County. We have 2 houses now for mothers and children. And it was no easy feat. And I always say that, everybody gave me a no, but God gave me a yes. And I hit the ground running and haven't looked back since. So I am looking to do big things. I am definitely a go-getter and I don't stop. So we're looking to expand and hopefully to expand to other states going forward. As far as the Nathan's Ridge piece, I really can't take a lot of credit for this. Laura Lee Irons was gracious enough to see me fit to take over this organization after 7 years of running this organization. And when I revamped it, my husband spent multiple years incarcerated and is also a person in recovery. And I wanted to find a way that I could give back. And when he and I talked about it, he really, really, really was passionate about reentry into society, talking about, a total of 21 years he spent in the prison system and coming out, not knowing how to use social media, not knowing how to use cell phones, not knowing how to do the things that we take for granted every day. So when I thought about, again, how can we change the game? how we change the game is we got to offer services. We got to, you know, step our game up and make it so that it's not so easy to reoffend, so that it's not so easy to relapse. Because if they're more comfortable incarcerated, then it just would make sense that's where they want to be. So we've found ways to bridge the gap, and we are currently working on a reentry program that offers employment, mock interviews, anything from internet skills, GEDs, all those things that, you know, just kind of get jumped over and skipped over in the process. And having worked in the field for some time, persons coming from incarceration and mother and children are, no question, probably the most neglected populations when we're talking in terms of recovery. And so I always want to find a way to give back, and that's my way of giving back there. And so when I think about everything I do every single day, my general purpose and being is just to let people know that they're worth it. You know, I can remember being homeless. I can remember, to like it was yesterday, what it felt like. I can remember feeling worthless and like I had no purpose. And the truth is, if we're still living and breathing, we all have purpose. And so I take a little bit of a different approach. I am definitely one of tough love with my girls in the program, but no one fights for them harder than I do. I don't just encourage them, I empower them. I let them know that they don't have to rely on a man in order to stay sober or to provide for their children or to be successful in life. It is okay to be in a relationship, but the relationship should complement you. It shouldn't make you. And so a lot of what I do is rebuilding what has been lost, restoration process of what's been lost while we were using. And so I definitely am a huge advocate for empowering individuals, making them feel good about themselves. When you feel better, you do better. And I am so excited about what the future holds. And I'm excited about this panel and everything that I have the opportunity to do. And I'm grateful that God continues to use me day after day. So thank you for allowing me to share. And I look forward to hearing some of my really good friends on here share as well. Thank you.
Oh, Polly, it was so good to hear you share. I mean, that made my whole day. All these years, I've been complimenting my wife. I finally got a title for what I am to her. That's incredible. Yeah, good job, man. I want to come see your place one day, so
Yes.
I'm sure you'll let me in. And I know Honesty wants to ride up there and check it out too.
Anytime.
Sounds like that's we need that down here for sure.
Yes.
You know, our next speaker, old Phil Rutherford. I say old with, you know, a grain of salt, of course. I've known Phil a long time, man. And if you're ever going to meet a real warrior in this space who just quietly busting heads up in faces of voices of recovery, guiding these recovery community organizations, you know, through this process, I mean, he's the man. He ain't never let me down. Always got good intel. I mean, I love the man to death, and I respect him a lot. And best of all, he's one of those people that will actually tell me when to be quiet, when to sit down, and when to let things happen. So I value that in my life. So without taking up any more time, Phil, take it away, my brother.
Thank you, John. And I want to thank whoever came up with the picture of me, like with very little gray on the screen here, because I look a lot younger in that picture. I may or may not have been coloring my hair at that time. But thank you, John and Honesty, for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. My name is Phil Rutherford. I'm a man living in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that today I get an opportunity to participate in my life. And that I didn't think it was possible to have a life in the way that I do today. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about this as folks were talking. I couldn't even envision what my life is today. I didn't even have an idea. I didn't even have a frame of reference for it. I've known John a long time, and I think, I'm sure a lot of people can trace some of their recovery roots back to a conversation with John, but I met John at a time where I was kind of new to recovery community organizations, and I was really impressed with the fire and just how he would not take no for an answer, and it has absolutely shaped the work that I do and the work that I continue to do with Faces and Voices. So I'm a chief operating officer, which sometimes I ask people, what does a COO do? Nobody seems to know. A COO, I'm not sure I know, but a COO basically tries to keep all the wheels moving and keep everything going in the background. And that's what I do. At Faces and Voices, we have a couple of different programs. One of them is the Association of Recovery Community Organizations. And that is a group of RCOs. McShin is one of our earliest and largest members. And these recovery community organizations are all over the country, and they're doing peer-to-peer recovery work. They're doing advocacy work. They're doing community education, and they're doing housing. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff in the communities, and we try and support them at a national level and go on the Hill and try and support policies and that sort of thing. We have a data unit that collects data about people in recovery, and it's not like Big Brother or Facebook or any of that, but it's important for people to understand that recovery works. So I know I'm a 12-step is my pathway to recovery, and I know in my belly that 12-step works. I'm a living, breathing example of it. But like when I go on the Hill and talk to a senator or a House rep and say recovery works, sometimes they look at me funny, right? So what our data group does is we compile data that proves that recovery works, and that sometimes can prove to others, like when we show them our data, it sometimes can demonstrate the power of recovery. They don't always listen to guys like me. We have a training group that does training around the country, and we have an advocacy group that does policy work. And I want to talk just for a second about policy, because and I have a couple things about Black history, but something that we're doing now that we haven't done in the past is we've always had policy agenda, but we have really, Faces and Voices has made a commitment to the world, essentially, that we're going to live out our beliefs about diversity, equity, and inclusion in our policies, right? So our asks to Congress this year have a request for a set aside for Black and Indigenous people of color recovery community organizations, that we target funding to those organizations. And I know this is all boring stuff. Maybe nobody cares about that, but it's different. It's something that Faces and Voices hasn't done in the past, and it's something I'm particularly proud of, because it's not that we're trying to say only certain people should get funding, but it's something that hasn't been targeted before. So it's something that we're doing. We're always asking for funding for all recovery community organizations. We just felt like it was important to kind of target that. And it's that's thing number one on Black history. The other thing that comes to mind is we had a forum last night, a DEI forum, and it's Black History Month. So we had a gentleman talk to us about the recovery legacies of Frederick Douglass and Malcolm X. And it's not necessarily common knowledge, but Frederick Douglass, in addition to being an abolitionist, someone who was fighting against slavery, he got his freedom, and then he spoke very eloquently and fought for abolition. He was also very involved in the temperance movement and fought to try and get people to stop drinking, because he recognized the danger of drink. And it's not that that's exactly what we're looking for these days, but it was just interesting hearing about his approach and his understanding that there was trouble associated with drinking. The thing that really got me thinking, though, last night was the discussion of Malcolm X. And again, I don't know if it's necessarily common knowledge, but Malcolm X was addicted to heroin when he went to prison, and found his pathway to recovery was faith. And he found faith, his faith walk with Islam, he found recovery. and stayed in recovery until his assassination, and had no return to use or anything of the sort. And I just, it's important to me to think about that, because, you know, like all RCOs, we are focused on multiple pathways to recovery, and faith is a pathway to recovery. Now, not everyone thinks immediately of Islam as a pathway to recovery, and that's not what I'm here to suggest. But it's important to me that we honor all of those pathways. And it was just it really stood out to me when this gentleman was talking, that when we look at all of the ways that people can get recovery, that we honor all of those paths. And it really touched me. And some of the things that we're looking at, kind of when we look at recovery across the country, is the 12-step pathways are well represented. But when we look at who is in the recovery rooms, we want to make sure that we have opportunities for faith and for other pathways that are not as easily and not as readily available. Because I think the 12-step and faith are sort of the traditional pathways. We want to make sure that there's room for others. And I guess the sort of big picture for what Faces and Voices is really looking for is to advance the cause of peer recovery around the country. And that's what we spend most of our time. So we spend most of our time doing, is trying to figure out how to get the message out to more people. And I think that we're doing that in a variety of different ways, but we are certainly this year and over the past year, even during COVID, have been able to bring it out more and more. One last thing, as I think about, again, Black History Month, and I think about all of the different contributions and things that specifically people of color have brought to recovery,
Philip, you're going to have to unmute yourself. You got yourself muted.
Oh, I'm not sure how that happened. How long has that been going on?
About 40 seconds.
Oh, okay. What was the last thing I said?
My name's Phil, and I'm glad to be here tonight.
All right. Look, that's all I got. Thanks. No.
No, you were saying something about this is the meaning of Black history. Right at that, it dropped down.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think I had started talking about, that's weird that I sort of automatically muted. Maybe that meant that I wasn't supposed to say that, but I'm saying it again anyway. I was thinking about my own personal recovery experience, and I said I came into the rooms, and then I corrected it and said I stumbled into the rooms, and I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. Right. And it just happened to be, those are the rooms that I was in. Right. So, and this is it's not a rare experience in some 12-step rooms, but I happened to be down in South Florida, and I just didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. And what happened in the back of my head was that I told myself that the 12 steps didn't work for Black people. Right. And I could prove that because I didn't see many Black people in the rooms, and done. Right. And so I went on about my business and suffered and stumbled along. Now, I know that that's nonsense today. But what happened after a period of time and after sufficient beating is I stumbled into yet another room, and I met a guy that looked like me. And it's not that I believe that you have to have someone that looks like you in order to recover. That's not what I'm saying here. But in my case, what happened to me is that I met a guy that looked like me and kind of sounded like me. and his story was kind of like mine. And I said that I felt I was okay saying that to him because I wouldn't tell anybody else. I wasn't going to tell any of these white folks that AA didn't work for black people because I knew they would argue with me. But I met this black guy and I told him, hey, AA doesn't work for black people. And he said, okay. And by then I had moved to Minneapolis. So he took me to a meeting, and it was a men's meeting, and it was all black men. And it just, something about that kind of evaporated that excuse, because that's what it was. It was an excuse. There's absolutely nothing wrong, or it's absolutely nonsense that 12 steps only works for a certain type of people. But something about having him and having that experience probably saved my life. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I think it is important. It is a nice thought that when we say AA works for everyone, but in actual practice, it is important to get culturally specific groups and culturally specific things to help people when they need that little extra push. Because that's what I needed. Because I think I might have gone on with that foolishness in my head about AA not working if I'd never found that place. So I think one thing that's really important to me as we talk about Black history and more importantly Black future is that we at least keep that in mind, that we keep in mind that people come into the rooms with an intersection. People come into recovery with an intersection of things. It's not just that I happen to be I almost said an insensitive word about people with cocaine use disorder. It's not that I happen to be one of those, but I came in with a host of other things. I came in with some stuff around race, and I came in with the experience of a black man trying to recover in a world that wasn't necessarily friendly to me. And so I think it is critically important to as we're bringing people in, that we have that awareness. And maybe if they're not successful, or it seems like people aren't fitting into programming, maybe there's something that we can do where we think about, okay, is this the right cultural fit for them? And that's something that we look at how to do that in a macro way, at least at Faces and Voices. And it's something I look at in my own personal recovery work as well. So sorry about the muting thing. I'm not sure if I said anything else really important in there, but I'm a man of faith, so I'm going to go with the God of my understanding thought you didn't need to hear that. So that's all I got.
Good talk, Phil. You know, Frederick Douglass and Malcolm X, man, they're both some of my favorite folks. And I love Frederick Douglass. People don't realize, you know, the struggle they went through back then during that period. But he has this famous quote, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. That reminds me of us in the recovery space. Seems like, man, we've been struggling, so that means we must be making progress. So I'll never forget that quote. And I sponsored a kid about 25 years ago. This is just trivial stuff. But his brother wrote that thesis when he was going through Howard that Malcolm X used to make that movie Do the Right Thing. So I got a full education on Malcolm, you know, years ago. And they're both great men, you know, and I respect them both, man. So I'm glad to hear you talk about them. I wish I'd have seen that thing last night. Now I have to go watch the rerun. You know, our final speaker before the break is a good friend of mine. We go way back. I met Walt when he first come around recovery, and he is a different man today than he was 25 years ago. But I got to watch this man, you know, soar like a Scud missile. You know, he went back to school, got educated, did the right thing, worked the steps, and, you know, he'll tell you this himself, I'm sure. But he did one up on most of us. He's a preacher now. Now, if you want to hear a guy preach, you tune into his service on Sunday mornings. We Facebook it now. This guy is incredible. There ain't no sleeping during his service. I don't care how long he talks. You're on the edge of your chair. But in any event, don't want to take up no more Walt's time. A little warm welcome for Walt. Take it away, my brother.
Oh wow! Hey man, I'm just grateful to be here and excited about the participants that's on this platform. Each one of you has said something that really have touched my spirit. But most important, I'm excited about Carrot Talk. The work that I have watched, honestly, in her years of long-term recovery, and especially John. When you two y'all get together, y'all make things happen. And just to have me a part of it. I'm always overwhelmed and excited. That God has used me. He continually using me. In these 25 years of long-term recovery, that I have been able to, accumulate consistency. There was a period of my time, when I first found. I'm a member of a 12-step program called Narcotics Anonymous as well. And there was a period of my recovery time when I was just hanging out, being that person John identified, excited about being clean. And I realized I was clean and crazy, but after 2.5 years of just in the 12-step program, doing everything that I wanted to do, no spirituality, but just free from not using drugs and alcohol. I found myself relapsing, and at that point, that relapse was a jarring experience, man. It put me on the pathway to recovery. And you're right, Phil. There are many pathways of recovery. But this time around, me implementing more spirituality, in my process. And again, some of the things, John, you said, that relapse being that jarring experience. When I went to my grand sponsor, and I'm not going to break his anonymity, but you guys know who he are. Most of you do. He had shared with me at that time, Walt, you may want to go back to school, go to school, go to church, make a meeting. It's like he gave me some steps to take. And I did that, you guys. I went to school. I made a meeting. I went to church. I went to school. I made a meeting. I went to church. And not knowing, that those 3 steps right there, it was going to change my whole life. Today, going to school, yes, I came here after failing 9th grade 3 times, have a hard time comprehending, retaining, but I went back to school and just 2 years ago, I graduated with my master's degree, and accumulated a lot of things along the way. So I'm grateful for that, that journey alone, and accumulating those things, a substance abuse certification, a human service degree, a state board license for substance abuse counselor, substance abuse certificate, staying in school, getting a master's degree in divinity, and that opened up the pathway for my spirituality. I have tried church, but some reason I just couldn't get the understanding of the language that was spoken in that particular platform, reading the Bible, not understanding how God was going to work through the Bible. But so I tried the school, I tried the church, but it was the program of Narcotics Anonymous that laid that foundation, that helped me get in touch with God as I understood him. And just have a desire for all 3 of those pieces. And God just gave me this vision, or how to put those 3 pieces together. And it was a person called John Schenhauser. John, you are a real risk taker. You've been doing that years. Even having this platform, me looking at you and you having Black History Month and look at all the participants on the platform. God used you, John, as a Moses in our community today. And what has happened, honestly, me, you, John, we all had this conversation, the place where you guys serve the participants, at the Machine Foundation. I'm so grateful for what you guys do there. That facility, they didn't have that spirituality connection, that piece there. And of course, another person who's not here, so I'm not going to break his anonymity, even on this platform. You guys got together and y'all brought me there. And what came with me was called Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry. Those things God was stirring up in me. We talking about the educational part. We talking about the religious part, and we all talk about the 12th step. God put that vision in my mindset that I was able to create, Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry. And when John said he wanted a spirituality, we don't want all that church stuff, Walter. That's not what we want. But to have a place, where the participant can feel the presence of God, and what it looked like, Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry. It's a non-denomination spiritual ministry where anyone could join us. We at Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry, we know it was the drugs and the alcohol that got us there. because we are recovering addicts, alcoholics, but we know that it's God who continue to deal with us based on a lifestyle change. Yeah, it's the drugs and the alcohol, but even today, me being in long-term recovery for 25 years, there are still bondages, my way of thinking, some behavior, that God's still dealing with me. And what we do at Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry, it's a 12-step and it's a biblical approach. I love that already. I get excited just thinking about how God working this thing out. Each week we'll go over one of the steps. And within one of the steps, there's a Bible verse that God will lead me to, and then I'll unpack the Bible verse. But what I do, I bring a person in from the 12-step community, and I ask them to speak on the step. Because when we look at our participants, at the Mission Foundation, they also allow the family to come. Mission is a great organization, that addresses the holistic approach. So when the participant come, they invite their family. Some of the family members don't even have an understanding of the 12 steps, a 12-step program. But what they do have is a love and a concern and a care for their family. So in this platform, in this arena of Breaking the Bondage of Addiction, I'm able to speak to the participant, and I'm also able to speak to the family member in the same setting. And just to see the family member and the participant agreeing on what the word that God, as my understanding, is giving me to give to the community at that time, we all celebrate. We all rejoice. We all excited about what is happening. At Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry, this is our goal. I want y'all to hear the goal, because this is the goal of the whole ministry, is to enlighten, empower, and equip individuals with knowledge and understanding and wisdom through the word of God concerning addictive behavior. I get excited about that, man. And you may think that's a lot that I just said, so I'm going to say it one more time, because it's not a lot, but it's very impactful. This is what it is. The goal of Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry is to enlighten, empower, and equip individuals with understanding, knowledge, and wisdom through the word of God concerning addictive behavior. Come on, Phil. Think about that, man. To have a place that we could come to, that we could talk about our addictive behavior and also talk about God as we understand him. If you want to hear Jesus Christ, you could do that. You could do that in this space. We're not religious, but at the same time, we talking about a relationship. That's what I like about that, man. Having a place that we can relate to one another, man. We talk a language that we all can understand. And I'm excited about that, I'm excited about Breaking of the Bondage Addiction mission statement. This is the mission statement. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captive, and to open up the prison to them that are bound. That's found in Luke 4:18. That's why I say we have a biblical approach, and we also have the 12-step approach that we come together. And not only we do that here at the Mission Foundation, but let me tell you what John has done. And I really appreciate you, John. If I never told you this before, with this ministry, John has found the way that is going into the institutions. Come on, man. The other people are able to view it. They'll watch God operating through a 12-step and a biblical approach, man. It's like a collaboration together. You can't go into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous and do some of the things and free yourself and celebrate. Come on. We haven't smoked drugs and haven't drank alcohol, and we are growing in relationship with our family. That's something that sometimes I just want to shout, thank you. I want to get up and run around sometimes. I want to clap my hand. And then this the hit. The participants, they come to me. Some of them, they celebrate their relationship with God through poems. They celebrate their relationship with God through singing a song. They stand up and do spoken word. So, man, I'm excited for the Mission Foundation. Again, John taking a risk, bringing me in, with my education. Come on, because God has blessed me by staying clean first. Staying clean got to come first. You know what I mean? So God has blessed me with the education to be able to search the scripture, the biblical perspective, with a 12-step model, and bring it to some participant who receive it. They receive it. You know, it's nothing that we force on them. They just receive it for us to come together, man. And let's use all the experience, because all the things that was happening to me, what I realized it was actually happening for me. And to have a place to come share my experience, strength, the hope from the biblical perspective, we say a testimony, but have a place called Breaking the Bondage of Addiction Ministry is only through the Machine Foundation. They set it up for this to happen. So look, man, this is Black History Month. I'm proud of what we are doing as a community, as a people, but most important, hey, John, honestly, I'm proud of what you guys are doing. Y'all are reaching so many people, and for me to be a part of it, I'm excited about this process. So look, you guys, thanks for having me, and maybe you'll bring me back if I stop right now while I'm ahead of the game. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Walt. It was no risk at all bringing you in. I'd like to get another half a dozen of you up in here. Hey, apparently I talked too much in between speakers, so we're going to miss our break today.
No, we're going to take a real quick 2-minute break.
All right. Any announcements before we break?
2-minute break.
2-minute break. All right, gang, we're going to go down for a couple minutes, and we'll be right back. Thank you all. Great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Jillian Knight, and I'm the director here at Foundation.
I'm Carla. I'm the Assistant Director of Female Programs.
We have an amazing women's program house out in Chester, Virginia.
I've seen so many women's lives change since entering into the Mission Foundation, and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
This is where the girls get to experience recovery in a more intimate setting. The house that they live in sits on about 3 acres of land. In the back, they have a horse pasture where we are able to get animals out there. Soon we should have chickens and goats and all type of different animals. They also get to have their groups here at the house.
I've seen so many women's lives change, and it's amazing to be able to see that. What I like to see is when they come in and when they leave. I see the difference.
Out there, they have a group room, they have a exercise room, they have a therapy room, they have no outside distractions going on. They have an amazing opportunity out here to live together.
You've got to, for your recovery, you've got to understand, like, this is a life or death situation. Anytime we go use, we're susceptible, we just are, no matter what drug it is or anything.
Out here at the Chester Program Women's House, this is where they get acclimated in their recovery foundation for the first 28 days.
Communication is a key to recovery. Yeah, we can say just don't use over here. Just don't use. Sometimes just don't use. That's great. I live by, because I don't use no matter what, but also there's so much more over here that you got to work on in your soul.
This is a really good opportunity for females to come in where they get to build relationships with other women that they live with, because a lot of us come in and we have past trauma with women or have never had a woman figure in our life. They get to work through all that in early recovery.
The reward, though, is seeing you guys, seeing people like Ms. P coming back because she wanted to, seeing women get their children back, seeing you guys, develop relationships. That's what wakes me up in the morning and gets me to come to McShin and you guys, and seeing our alumni and there's a million stories I could tell you about awesome women that have come through McShin and where they're at now.
So if you're a female that is looking for a program recovery house, Chesterfield House will be an amazing opportunity for you to come out. And this is where you'll be able to found a great foundation of recovery.
Welcome back, all you, honestly.
Welcome back.
We got a problem here, I see.
I don't know what Todd's doing. There's Robin.
Oh, there we go.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to dive right into our next speaker. I personally have not met T, but she was on the McShann award-winning podcast, Get in the Herd. So thank you for doing that. So Tiffany, you go by T Scott, I'm assuming, and you're the president and CEO of Impact, and you've been doing this for over 30 years, public service. So did you start doing this when you were 5? I mean, you look so young. So with that, I will give you T.
Thank you all. Thank you all for having me. My name is T. Scott, as she said. I'm the president and founder of the Maryland Peer Advisory Council, which is an advocacy and leadership program. We also provide peer recovery coaching training for individuals, family members, and allies, to include faith-based members and in seeking recovery. And I started this journey very early on. I was in high school and I began doing some public service work and volunteering. And I just love public service, so I stayed there. But it wasn't until I was impacted by 2 parents, and both of them, one was a veteran and my mom is in recovery today with lived experience of substance use and recovery. I lost my dad, and then my mom went into federal prison. And, you know, as a child and watching that process, and with a family that had no knowledge around substance use, it was a challenge. And although they were financially sound, you know, they just really tried very hard to support their loved one, their child, in recovery. And I was that kid watching the process. So it is just, it's been a true journey for me. I entered public service and then did some firework. And it wasn't until I was in working along in corrections, and I seen women in recovery, and I became very disturbed that women were not being supported properly. They were in care, and the received services, but there was limited access for them. So entering that criminal justice system and being a part of that process and watching it, I just wanted to learn deeper. And I think that space gave me an opportunity to learn about recovery. After leaving the correctional field, I started doing some work with women around recovery and reunification. So I was glad to see Carly on and talk about parents being reunified, because that's a beautiful process. And being a young mother, watching people be reunified with their children is just an overwhelming, amazing process. I also did some work around EMS and fire, and watching them try to serve individuals who are seeking recovery. And I saw the stigma around it, and it charged me to learn and want more. I became a peer recovery coach, and at that time we were advocates through CCAR, the Recovery Coaching Academy. And then after moving that, Baltimore was on an uprising, and I live in Baltimore. And Baltimore is rich with culture and history and things around recovery. And we have been doing this work in Baltimore for a very long time, but I was introduced from a family member. So entering like that and learning and being a person from a family perspective and not a person from active addiction, there was some challenges for me, you know, so I just kept pushing forward. I became a certified peer recovery specialist for the state of Maryland. I dived in and learned and wanted more and more information. I learned about a beautiful community that I had never been a part of, but actually, when I think back, I really did, you know, watching my mother come home from federal prison, going to meetings with her, sharing an experience. I recall learning about the Serenity Prayer very early on, and watching different processes, and also watching the struggle, right? So how can we do better? That was my thing. One thing that really helped me through my parents and my family members' recovery process was community. Community responded to the needs, my needs. We had neighbors and loved ones who came in and wrapped their arms around me and supported me, you know, not to give you all the bad things that happened through recovery. I remember all the good things, right? I remember showing up for my mom and she showing up for me. And, you know, that's awesome. And seeing her and watching her journey and seeing she was a totally different person from the person I met. And that kind of pushes some family stigma, you know, to talk about how family members are uneducated and how we need to give them the supports they need to help their loved ones navigate recovery. So I just became one of those recovery champions, pushing through, wanting to know more information, telling community members about recovery, telling them that that's a process of recovery. But at the end of the day, people are human beings and we need to treat them as such, right? Addiction is a disease. We need to support people better. We need to do what we can in every space possible to support a loved one in recovery. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to be that voice, that soundboard, to say that recovery is possible. I know because I lived it, right? I wasn't a person that actively used. However, I was that child. I was that teenager. I was that parent who had to learn my parents all over again. And that is a process, so we need great systems. We need great organizations like McShin. We need organizations that are in Baltimore that are flourishing and doing wonderful. Baltimore is a very culturally rich community. We have recovery organizations here in the city. We also have harm reduction services and needle exchange. We have peer specialists who are riding along with EMS and fire. We have individuals who are working behind the walls. As a matter of fact, we have individuals who have life sentences and who are trained to be certified peer recovery specialists and go through the process like everyone. We have individuals who are serving parents and families. And then we also have individuals, we just started a good aging program that's going well. So I think we should touch every last person who is in and seeking recovery. And even if they are in a struggle, being with someone is the most important thing that you can do. Be able to be at their needs, meet them where they are, provide resources and information. And then even if they're not ready for the change that you want to see, be present. That is the most important thing that you can do. Create safe spaces for individuals who need their supports and be a soundboard for others. You are the messenger, and together we definitely can make a difference. So that's my motto around impact. Just pushing that together, we can make a difference. We are a grassroots community-based organization. I like being in community. I love advocacy, so we work together to change policies. We advocate for different things that are important to us, right? So right now we have some legislation around overdose prevention sites, decriminalization, always ongoing stigma, and public service. So there's a lot of information being pushed and advocacy efforts going on around that. And I'll stay in that climate, right? Community and policy. And that's truly what I love. But I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to share today. My name is Tiffany Scott. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist, and together we can make a difference. Thank you.
Ooh, yay for Kay. Yay for Kay, because Kay made it in. All right, yay. So I got the opportunity. I actually listened to the McShin Getting the Herd podcast in my car because I can't possibly watch every single one at work and everything. So I got to listen to Kay and T's podcast in my car, and y'all are amazing. And Kay is a certified family recovery specialist, and she just the way that you spoke and you advocated through the actual podcast and your voice and your message, like you would definitely do very, very well at McShin because we really don't take any crap either and we keep moving forward. So I'm excited to hear Kay Ellis.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so honored. I'm so honored to be here and to be representing McShin Foundation. And thank you for having me, honestly. So I'm learning, I'm still honing the art of public speaking because I'm an emotional person and I just get very emotional. But I just want to say that I'm a woman in long-term recovery from opioid use disorder, 10 years clean. I want to tell you exact days because my memory is shot right now. I just want to tell you guys, I have been clean for 3,855 days, which is 10 years, 6 months, and 19 days. God makes all things possible. So I'm a woman in long-term recovery. I'm a mom. I have a son. He's 8. His name is Houston. That's my sweetheart. And my story is so powerful. I just want to kind of stick to the script. Okay. So this is my message for anyone suffering with substance use disorder. I just want to say that we have to learn how to change the language that's being used with this, because there are so many people struggling with substance use disorder. I don't say, I mean, when I first got clean, I used to say addict, dope, fiend, pill head, junkie. These were the things that people called me, and it made me less likely to get the help. It took me 10 years to figure out what was wrong with me and what I was dealing with. So I just want to say that for anyone suffering with substance use disorder, there are so many things that we need to know. We need to change the language, and we need to understand the signs of addiction. I was a woman who was functional, and for 10 years, I was working for DIFUS for New Jersey, the state of New Jersey. I wasn't exactly working through them, but I was working through a private contractor. But I was working with children, high-risk youth, and I had a habit, and I hid it very well. I looked gorgeous. My nails were done. My hair was done. I spoke well, and no one ever knew what I was dealing with. But I was a woman in active addiction, and I didn't understand what I was dealing with. I didn't have someone to connect to say, "Hey, what are you going through? What are you dealing with?" So I just want to say that I look at addiction a different way since I've experienced it. And I just want to say that addiction is a life-threatening and mind-altering disease, and it's an addiction. It's a disease of the brain, and a lot of people don't understand. People think that we have control over this because of, taking the substance and saying, "Oh, okay, this person can get help and they can get through this. They're all right. They just need tough love." Well, sometimes people need a little help with finding their pathways to recovery. So I just want to say that, for a woman that struggled for 10 years and had a great life, that addiction does not discriminate. I'm going to say that again. Addiction does not discriminate. And we have to change the language, because there are people walking around with great jobs, great lives, great families. Kids are in Ivy League schools, and they have substance use disorder in their families. And people don't understand that. People think that, oh, okay, well, we look good and everything's going great, but we don't understand addiction. We have to get the language out. We have to change the language. And I just want to say that we have to change the conversation. And you don't have to stay down if you're down, because guess what? I'm a woman who came out through that dark tunnel with that backpack, right? So this is what I say in my talks. You can be walking through a tunnel, and my pathway to recovery was just like, it just happened. I found my pathway. You're walking through a tunnel and you have a backpack, and along that way, you can't really see what you're facing, but you just have to say, okay, let me just go with this and see what happens. Let me just get through this. And so along that road to my recovery, I collected a lot of things in my backpack, my knapsack, and I've been clean for 10 years. So I just know that there are many pathways to recovery, and I don't believe in looking down on someone because they followed 12 steps or something spiritual or whatever your pathway to recovery. If you can find that, or talk to someone, keep this conversation open. And I just think that is one of the keys to getting through addiction, is having a conversation. And this is something else I want to say. When we are suffering with addiction, right, and we're people that think that other people don't know what we're going through, because we have to realize that we have a problem. We have to realize that there are signs. Our bodies are telling us something that we are dealing with addiction. But listen, behind closed doors, our bodies tell us something, and our bodies may be saying something's wrong, and we're in denial. And we're like, okay, every day I have to wake up and I have to take all these pills to be functional. And I have a great life. I'm a great mom. I'm a great wife. I'm a great husband. I'm a great grandfather. I'm a great grandmother. I'm a great teacher. I'm a great veteran. I'm a great athlete. I'm just all these great people. But I'm getting sick when I don't have the opioids. We have to understand the signs of addiction, and we can't ignore the signs. We have to speak to people. And I am a part of a recovery family that I adore and I love so much. And all of you guys on here are a part of my recovery, because I feel like you guys have given me purpose from being able to share my story And that's important. I have short-term memory though, so I have to write down notes for everything that I say, because I can say something 1 minute and then forget what I was saying. So even when we have a network of people that are supporting us, when we realize that we have a problem, I think that everybody's rock bottoms are different. Rock bottoms are different for every person. So what may have been my rock bottom may for someone else be like, okay, well, you only took 30 pills a day. I can take 50 and I'm still good. So everybody's rock bottoms is different. And we have to keep in mind that we can't understand a person's rock bottom. Only they can understand it. What is rock bottom for them. And in these times that we experience in our rock bottoms, that we have to understand that we have to have courage and keep going, keep pushing. I had the gift of push. I know everybody don't have that, but you know, being around people in recovery community that have good energy and things like that can help you make a choice about what you feel may be your pathway. It might not be religious or spiritual. It might not be Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever, but you might find your higher being. And once you figure that out and have that support, I think that's so important. We have to keep keeping the conversation open. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share my story, the McShin Foundation and Honesty, and thank you for my family at the Recovery Advocacy Project. I love you guys.
All right. Thank you, ladies. The next up is Robin there. Todd. Oh. All right. Never mind. I see you. Okay. Well, next up isn't Robin. It'll be Mr. Whiteside. Hey, I didn't know we were having difficulties, and then we'll go back to Robin. So he is actually doing some stuff and wants to do a lot more stuff in jails and prisons. So I know we met via email, and then he did our podcast, and he loves all of our content and wants to get our content into the jails up there. So I will give you Ramaya.
Okay. So can you guys hear me pretty good? I'm going to just say yes. I hope so. Okay. So my name is Ramaya Whiteside, and I am a community organizer for EXPO, which is Ex-Incarcerated People Organizing. And I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm a directly impacted person, which means I was incarcerated. In fact, I was incarcerated for 25 years, and I was recently released. And I'm hearing a delay in my ear, so ever since I've got connected through some other platforms with the McShin Foundation, I really enjoy collaborating with people and developing partnerships and relationships, because as a person in recovery, I know my strongest tool is connected to my faith, and it's connected to people. So let me just expound on that just a little bit. So I'm not a professional anything other than a professional Ramaya, and sometimes I get that wrong. So I ask people who have more knowledge than me. So on my road through and to recovery, I ask a lot of questions. I ask people to show me their struggles and show me their successes, show me their triumphs. So one of one of the greatest things for me was being a community organizer and being a mentor and a life coach for other people in transition or going through recovery is the relationship. So the returning men and women who are returning home from an incarceration, who also suffer from addiction or who also suffer from mental illnesses. One of the greatest rewards for me from surviving in incarceration is being able to help them survive. And sometimes that's just a matter of, let's get through today. I don't care how you got here. I don't care if you took a boat, a scooter, inline skates, you walked, skipped, or jogged. I don't care how you got here. All I care about personally with sobriety and maintaining your freedom is getting through another day. So what that means to me is making myself available to answer questions, to also ask questions, making myself available to sometimes, actually a lot of the times, I don't have an answer. I can't give you a specific equation that's going to keep you from using. I don't have a magic answer. I can share what worked for me. And sometimes that's just a matter of, I'll walk with you. I'll walk alongside you as long as I can, as long as I can stay healthy, and as long as you're staying healthy. I can walk with you as a friend, as a mentor, as a sponsor. So what keeps me sober and free are the relationships I have, the people I'm connected to. So my network, my support system includes people who have a lot more experience than me. It's cyclical. It's like a circle. People pour into me, therefore I pour into people. So let me give you an example of this. You have people who are currently incarcerated. Unfortunately, the programs that are available or the programs that people have access to during an incarceration, it doesn't meet all of our needs. Okay, so my specific substance abuse needs don't exactly fit the cookie cutter approach. So what I mean by that is, I took all the programs, all of them, dealing with substance abuse and mental illnesses while I was incarcerated. And here's the fine print. It didn't cure me. I successfully completed all of them. When I came home, I still had the urge. Whether it was a good day or a bad day, I still had the urge. I still have that stinking thinking that says, just a small bump. You deserve it. Nobody's going to know. Just take the edge off. Nobody really understands. The times when I don't even tell my wife what I'm going through. There's a lot of stuff I still hold internally that I don't share. It's those times that are a struggle for me. Because those are the same times that I shut down and I didn't do a lot of talking in the past. So I didn't share, I didn't open up. So while I do know how to communicate, I know how to share, and I know how to allow others to help me bear that load, sometimes I still don't do it. Sometimes, specifically like today, I don't want to talk. I'm hurting inside. I don't want to talk. And there's that old arch enemy or a friend, however you want to look at it, that's always there, 24/7, no matter what. She or he is waiting on me. It's the dope. And I hate it. And by myself, I'll never be able to beat it. Here's what I figured out. After completing 25 years of incarceration, after doing every program you have out there, inpatient, outpatient, 12 steps, after doing all of it, here's what I realized. If I try to do this by myself, I am going to lose. If you try to do this by yourself, it's not that I don't believe in you. Please don't hear that. Mathematically, statistically, you're going to lose. So my feedback and my encouragement is reach out to someone. Have a conversation. One thing I didn't do prior to my incarceration that I'm a lot better doing now, asking questions and talking about those times when I do hurt, when it's appropriate, and when I feel comfortable. So even after the times where I don't feel like talking to anybody, I'm either mad as hell or happy as hell. And sometimes I just want to be silent and absorb it. When I come out of that, I talk to somebody. I personally have a mentor. I personally have a life coach. I personally have a support system who I can call and say, you know what? I'm having a crappy day, a really, really, really crappy day. I thought about using. I feel like using. Help me get through this moment. Help me get through right now. Expo, what we do as community organizers and as mentors and as directly impacted people, we talk to each other. We share our experiences. And if I can't figure it out, you can best believe somebody within our system is going to be able to figure it out. If somebody within our system can't figure it out, we're going to network it. So I never have to feel like I have to do it alone. I can be myself. My name is Remiah Whiteside. I am in recovery. That means I'm every label you can think of. All that bad stuff. I can be all that. At the end of the day, I'm a success story. And whatever I can do to help somebody else be successful, if I can keep you from picking up that needle or picking up that joint or picking up that bottle, I'm available. I'll do it. It's all love. Thanks you guys for having me.
Thank you so much. I love that. Empowering humans. That is what we have to do every single day, but also work on our own personal recovery. So it can be challenging in this line of work for sure. I've been doing it, gosh, almost 14 years. So thank you for that. You know, keep doing what all of you guys are doing, you know, in your communities. I just can't wait till I get to travel. I've got my 2 shots, my 2 COVID shots. So I want to travel and visit everybody's organizations. I cannot wait. So our last, but certainly not least speaker, I have known for a long time. Her organization is a member of actually ARCO, which is Association of Recovery Community Organizations. So McShin's been a member of that since probably before I even came 13 years ago, and Robin and her organization. So we get to get on all these Zoom calls together and everything. And I wanted Robin to not only talk about anything she wants to talk about, but also possibly ask for funding out there. So I wanted her to give her a platform to be able to do so. So she is the director of Message Carriers of Pennsylvania. So take it away, Robin.
Thank you guys for having me. I just want to say that for Black History Month, I am honored to be able to speak about addiction and some solutions that have been available to me in my organization. When I got introduced to my journey of recovery was in 1989, and it was through the court system of in New Jersey. And I was able to come back to Pennsylvania and do what they call pretrial intervention. And at the time, I really thought that it was the worst thing in the world that could happen to me. However, it was my rescue to my journey of recovery. I wish I could say I got clean in 1989. It took me 2 years. So I surrendered to the high cost of low living, June 11th of 1991. And I was introduced to this program in 89. I was introduced to outpatient treatment in 89. And like most people who don't understand what the journey of recovery is, I was hesitant. And then I didn't like the fact of going to a 12-step meeting and identifying as an addict. So I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I like that. Back in 1998, when they decided to give money to different recovery community organizations, I was invited by this guy from my area, from Pittsburgh area, to come and see what recovery was about. And it was a different way than a 12-step group that I had been participating in. And I got down there, I could see all these Blacks and whites, Indians, Native Americans coming together for the cause of being a part of something greater, and that was recovery for everyone in the multiple pathways. It did not depend on just a 12-step group or church. It was the multiple pathways. And I started out and I became a volunteer to becoming an executive director. And through my association of message carriers and working with other RCOs throughout the state of Pennsylvania, we've done some magnificent things. We message carriers had a reentry program called the Inside Outside Reentry Program, where we worked with individuals for 3 months prior to their release from the county jail, and then we would work with them up to a year, and we had great results. Whereas 80% of those we had worked with had reduced in recidivism rate. They did not go back to jail. Then we worked together to create the curriculum for a certified recovery specialist. And we came together for workforce for people like myself and others who didn't have degrees in wanted to stay working in the field. So that happened. We, which is now across the state, and everybody's using it now. Everybody in the treatment and everybody else are utilizing this service. We had to stand up to the Pennsylvania Certification Board to stop them from allowing people who had degrees or anybody who did not have lived experience to obtain this degree, because it would take away from the workforce. Then I became a trainer for recovery, a trainer for CCAR. I'm a CCAR trainer for the Recovery Coach Academy. There's just a lot of things that we were able to do. And I was raised through this recovery community organization with the advocacy spotlight of there should be nothing about us without us. And every time we did some wonderful things in my area, it was taken upon by our county system to, utilize it and take over. But that just made me even more honored to be a part of such an initiative. We had the Rally for Recovery walks, and now it's called the Pittsburgh Recovery Walk. We were trailblazers, and we did a lot of great things. We believe in recovery support services, telephonic services. We help family members as well. And we know that we reduced the crime rates in our communities because people are in recovery. They are going to churches. And speaking of, I never wanted to be the executive director of message carriers. However, because of the initiative back in '98, when it was floundering, I was asked to become the executive director. Well, at first a project coordinator. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And this spirit I call God said, what message do you carry? And I was like, all right, I'll take the position. And it's been a learning position. It's been the ups and downs of being involved with a lot of things, but being involved with a lot of great things that this state in this area have been able to flourish with. So, we're really grateful for being a trailblazer in so many things, so many good things. Just recently, I was spotlighted for Black History Month for the work that Message Carriers and I have done along these years. But what is really the blessing, and I'm trying to get now to the solution, is the fact that during this time, through my active addiction, I never raised my son. My son was almost like my brother or something. I would see him. And because of my active addiction, I moved away from my hometown in Ohio to come and cause havoc in Pennsylvania. I just thought I had it right. And so after getting here and doing all the things, and then my recovery starts, and things start getting, very good for me. And I went back to school. I was able to go back to school and achieve 3 master's degrees. I'm an overachiever. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, as well as became an ordained minister. These are things that recovery has. And so what I really want to talk about is through Message Carriers giving out Narcan to save the opiates' lives, we really understand, especially during this time of COVID, that people are still dying from active addiction. So we have to be out there doing outreach, and we do outreach. We pass out Narcans, we pass out condoms, we pass out gloves and masks, water bottles, anything to help themselves while they try to figure it out to come on the side of recovery. Some of them may never make it, but that's not our place to choose. As someone said earlier, they're still human beings. We are all human beings, and we're all part of God's family. So our role is to always be of service. I consider myself a change agent, and I believe that if I'm a part of the problem, I need to be a part of the solution. So I was a part of the problem. Now I'm a part of the solution. I believe that every person deserves an opportunity, if it's 10,000, to get themselves together. There's not my place, or anyone else's for that matter, to judge when someone's going to get it, when it's going to click in, when will they surrender? No one knows. But being an advocate for them, allowing them to receive the services that are available, and not stigmatizing, because there's so many stigma and discriminatory practices. And even, yes, with RCOs from the Black to the white, my colleagues who are all white, across the state, they're flourishing. They're doing the same work that I'm doing, but they are flourishing. So there's still some work that has to be done with minority groups such as Message Carriers. We are still on the firing squad. We're out there. We're in the jungle, in the belly of the beast on any given day. And we're going to continue to do the work. And as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to continue to help anybody that comes my way. Because recovery for me, for you, and anybody else can all be different. This is why it's called recovery supports. We meet people where they are, and not where we want them to be, because they'll get there if they keep coming back. No, I enjoy, and I want to thank Honesty and John. And John, I remember we went to a meeting you spoke at in DC, and I didn't know all the power that you have, but I'm very impressed, and I thank God for all the work you guys are doing, and I wish everybody well. And thanks for having me. God bless.
John I'm so powerful. He disappeared. Woo! You gotta not tell that man how powerful he is. I gotta work with
He
him.
is.
Oh, here he comes.
He does some great things.
Girl.
Him and his wife, yes. I'm
Yeah,
talking about you, John.
I hear you. Are we done yet?
Yeah, we done.
We're done. I just want to thank everybody again. And, you know, you guys are amazing and definitely carried a message and solutions out there. So I really thank you for your time and thank you for our audience. Our next event will be March 26th, next Care Talks. It's going to be 8 women to celebrate Women's National Women's Day is March 8th, or the Day of the Woman. So I want to get 8 awesome women speakers. So that will be March 26th. So look out for more information on that. So everyone stay safe, love one another, and be happy. Bye.